Hi, my name is Bella Gomez. Today I will be talking about Edward Snowden and his charge that was made against him by the US government. So, just to kind of preface before I begin this video and state what I'll be talking about, or essentially the question I'll be answering, I have the prompt next to me, so it'll be on the left side, and I have my iPad next to me as well with my notes that will be used as just kind of a guideline as I go throughout this video and state my points. So just to kind of give a background as to who Edward Snowden is. So he was a former contractor for the National Security Agency, which is also going to be referred to as NSA in this video. And he leaked thousands of documents that were classified to journalists. And the reason that he did this was because he believed that the government was overstepping its boundaries as to what it could do as a government and as elected officials, and that it was a violation of civil liberties. So this would be for the American people or anyone that was affected by, or anyone's data that was taken by this agency without essentially their consent. So these documents, they revealed extensive global surveillance programs that were run by NSA and its international partners, so that would be the foreign countries that would be in contact with these individuals. And so essentially the programs included collection of phone records, internet activity, and then private communications that both American citizens and foreign leaders were having without proper legal oversight. So as I mentioned before, he had claimed that his main goal by releasing these documents to these journalists was that it was to protect the U.S. Citizens that were affected, and just to inform the public that the government was overstepping its boundaries in terms of its power. So just to kind of state what the question is I'll be answering today, it would be, is Snowden a traitor who endangered national security or a hero who exposed illegal surveillance and protected civil liberties? So, just to begin, the first standpoint, which would be him as a traitor, would be from the U.S. government perspective, since they did charge him formally. So with this charge, he was charged underneath the Espionage Act, which is the prohibition of disclosing information that is related to national defense, and it's with the intent and reason to believe it could harm the U.S. or aid a foreign nation. So essentially, since these documents were classified and he did work for this agency, they were able to charge him with this act, since they're technically he was not supposed to do that. And then another thing that the U.S. government could have or might have possibly argued is national security as a whole. So some of the risks that could come from this is just leaks of info. Like, this could lead to operations within the government being compromised due to this information getting out. So just depending on what was being said in these conversations and what was released to these journalists, it could ultimately compromise some of these things that they were planning out to do in the near future. And also it could have the risk of losing nations that are allies to the U.S. So this could break the trust that has been built between the U.S. and these foreign countries. So from the U.S. government perspective, this could be a very negative thing, which is why this would be placing Snowden in more of a traitor category. And in the standpoint of him being a hero who exposed illegal surveillance and protected civil liberties, which would be the supporters' point of view. As I said, he exposed unconstitutional and illegal surveillance through these documents to these journalists, and from doing this, he also started a very large debate on privacy, national security, and government transparency. So with this, the people protested, they talked about it, there was media coverage, so he just genuinely sparked like an uprise in the conversation regarding this, and regarding the privacy that all individuals have in terms of what they do on their phone, on their internet, just in general what they do. And so this even caused policy reforms. So ultimately this was a good thing. It brought awareness to these people that the government was doing things that were not constitutional, and that they should stand up for what's right. So finally, from a criminological point of view, I wanted to bring in political crime and deviance. So Snowden challenged state power, and then he also raised questions that were regarding legality and morality, which is why he broke the law to prevent perceived injustice. So that's why he was the person to release these documents to these journalists in order to cause these conversations to be had without hopefully without any type of repercussions, although he did end up getting charged with it later on. But to kind of conclude, as to where I stand in this, I would say that he did the right thing, only because he viewed something that was, not right. He stood up for what was right and what he believed was right, and he told these journalists, although he probably shouldn't have gone to these journalists about this, but he did say something. He did bring awareness to these things, which caused other people to start asking questions, to use their voice, which I believe is a very good thing, as all people have the right to ask questions. It's not a crime to ask questions. But thank you so much for listening, and thank you for your time.